Welcome everybody to another Crosstalk Solutions live stream. This is going to be a Q&A live stream. Oh, I just realized I didn't change the thumbnail on this live stream. I'll have to do that after the fact. Okay, this is going to be another Crosstalk Q&A live stream for Friday, 7/14/2017. Hope you guys can see this, and hopefully the audio sounds good, the video looks good, and all that sort of good stuff. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it and start with a couple of questions right off of my YouTube comments. So I don't always get the opportunity to respond to all of the comments in YouTube, so I like to sort of flip back and do these Q&As and answer some of the comments that I think are good questions that should be answered, and you know, do the best I can to answer them. Okay, so we got people rolling in. Let me switch over to my chat view here. Mitch, Hugo, welcome. Anthony, welcome. Let's see. Bill, Jordan, BJ, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello from Denmark, Mario. All right, guys, welcome. Thank you for joining the live stream. I'm going to start off with just some questions right here. So, question number one. This comes from Gracien. What video is this from? This is from the How to Set Up the Ubiquiti USG. This is a very, very old video, but let's see. So from Gracien, oh boy, Melataguya Sapi. Sorry for butchering the name. Hi, thanks for the video. Pleased to interconnect two sites. Do we necessarily need a cloud key for two independent UniFi sites? So the answer is no, and I think the whole UniFi controller, cloud key, architecture is a little bit confusing for people. So I wanted to kind of just cover that a little bit to start off with. So when you are deploying UniFi for either a single site or for multiple sites, what you need is a UniFi controller. Okay, so you just need the UniFi controller. Now, the UniFi controller can be installed on any number of devices. It can be on Windows, it can be on Linux, it can be on Mac, it can be on a cloud key, it can be hosted in AWS or DigitalOcean, much like the video that I just did the other day. So it really, I think people get confused on the difference between the cloud key and the UniFi controller. Those are two separate things. The cloud key is basically just a very small server, PoE-based server, that runs the UniFi controller. So as long as you have a UniFi controller somewhere, you can get all of your UniFi stuff to talk to each other. So I don't know. I just wanted to clear that up a little bit. Hopefully that helps. And it can be... Is that right? I didn't know that. Hang on. Let me switch over to this view here. So His Love Army says it can be on the USG Pro, which is a bit confusing. I actually didn't know that. So you're saying that the UniFi controller can be on a USG Pro directly? That is news to me if that's the case. Do you use Repair Shopper or similar management program for keeping your business organized? I don't. I actually don't know what that is. So hello from the UK. Welcome everyone that has joined. All right, let me flip back. So let me go to the next question here. By the way, I am answering some questions from YouTube comments, but of course I will also take questions from the chat right here. And of course, super chats are also enabled. So if I don't catch your chat, catch your question in the chat, I will absolutely stick around until all super chats have been answered sufficiently. So if you guys do want a super chat, that is enabled. And all right, let's move on to the next YouTube question here. Okay, so let's go back to this view, and let's bring up my window again. There we go. Okay, so this was just a comment that I kind of found a little bit funny. So this is on my let's see, Ubiquiti mesh wireless video, and there was a typo in here that was just funny. So Mountain X Freeride says these should have a plug on the back. I want to crap a few in some rooms in my home. So that was funny. Instead, I would have ugly wiring to hide and nothing to mount to. So, number one, you don't want to crap out a Ubiquiti wireless access point. That would probably hurt, especially the Pro version. But beyond that, if you're looking to put access points in your home, the mesh access points are probably not the right ones for you, right? The mesh access points are made for outdoor deployments. They're made for covering a park or covering a football stadium or covering someplace where you can't run wires, right? That's what mesh is for. So, yeah. If you don't want ugly wiring, use the UAPAC Pro, which then you can run it straight out of the wall right into the UAPAC Pro, and you won't see any wires at all. So that's what I would recommend in that case. So Jay says, sorry to interrupt, but I saw you on PUBG last night, and I'm super upset that it wasn't streamed. I deleted a volume on FreeNS accidentally and needed a pick-me-up. Okay, well, sorry about that. Jay, I was playing last night. I've been playing a lot of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds off the stream because I feel like the stream, I'm so bad at the game, I just feel like it's really boring for people to watch. So I'm trying to get better at the game, and so I've been playing a lot offline, and eventually I will start streaming that again. I do love that game. Okay, let's move on to the next one. And hi, Ahmed from Kenya. Hello. Welcome. Okay, so this was a really great example of some constructive criticism on my 15-minute hosted UniFi controller setup video. Alex writes, good clip, cheers. I have some feedback, not having a go. So already I think that Alex is from the UK, just based on his verbiage there. So he says, my belief is by sharing we lift everyone's security. You're absolutely right. So, number one, use an SSH key. Passwords are dead. Even if you use Windows, the PuTTY keygen program to generate a strong RSA key. Use a passphrase with the key. Use the SS agent pageant. Never use the root user or use the command sudo apt-get update is good discipline. So yes, all of those things are correct, and I think I covered that in the 15-minute hosted UniFi controller setup video. I mentioned SSH keys as an alternative to doing the password-based authentication. However, it wouldn't have been able to be completed in 15 minutes, and so therefore the video would not have been, I wouldn't have been able to do it in 15 minutes. SSH keygen takes a little bit of extra time. Not much, but it's a little confusing how it all works, and you kind of have to sit down and figure it out, and so it would have been at least an extra 5 or 10 minutes on the video if I was using SSH keys. And again, the video's out there as a guideline, right? And then you can take that, the instructions from the video, and then interpret those for your own environment, right? If you want to use SSH keys, use SSH keys. Absolutely. Okay, so they emailed you the password. Email is plain text. Even with changing it on first login, still not cool. Again, that's kind of super paranoid. You know, I don't have a problem with the fact that they email me a password. It comes in and I, put the password in and it works. I mean, think about the logistics of someone having to, or being able to compromise that, right? They would have to, A, know that I'm setting up a DigitalOcean server. Let me flip back to this view. Oh, where did my chat go? There it is. They would have to know that I'm setting up a DigitalOcean server. They would have to somehow be able to intercept my email. And then they would have to be able to input the root password and change it to something of their own liking within the sort of 1 minute or so that it takes for that email to get to me, and then for me to log in with an SSH with that temporary root password and set my own, right? So I think that one's a little too paranoid. But again, security is a topic that a lot of people go a little bit overboard on. It's very important. I don't mean to diminish it in any way, but there's a balance between really strong security and and ease of use of any product. And I think what he's talking about is a little bit more on the strong side, and it needs to err a little bit more on the ease of use side. Okay, so blocking outbound is as important as blocking inbound. Use a DNS name and Let's Encrypt, and use the Acme tool to renew certs. Let me go back to this view. Let's see. Again, a good discipline is to use a DNS-A record with SSL so that you get a green padlock in the browser, end-to-end trust, and setting the example that clicking proceed anyway, etc. is going to bite someone's arse. So another prime example of some UK nomenclature there. But yes, you're exactly right. So again, what I set up was a very basic installation of DigitalOcean. Can it be better? Can it be more secure? Absolutely. These are very good tips. And again, take my video as the foundation and then make it more secure on your own. Okay, let me go back through the comments here and see if we have anything. Okay, so let's see. USG Pro does have it. So USG Pro does have UniFi controller on it. All right. Do you have the beta UniFi Application Server Pro? No. Ubiquiti does not send me any beta hardware. Okay, there are other YouTubers out there that seem to get every piece of beta hardware that Ubiquiti makes. I am not on that list. I really wish I was, because I'd love to evaluate all the stuff that comes out. Every piece of Ubiquiti hardware that you see in my office, with the exception of a very few things, were purchased by me out of pocket. So, Ubiquiti, listen, I need some free shit, please. Okay, so let's see. Howdy from Ireland, Keith O'Shea. You're from Ireland. You have a very Irish name as well. Wonderful. Do you have any UVC micro that I can buy? Cannot find them anywhere. Hopefully Ubiquiti releases a new model soon. No, I don't have any UVC micros, and I've never actually even had my hands on one. I've never used those cameras. Followed your VLAN setup video from Daniel. Can connect and see my phone on the guest Wi-Fi console, but I never get an IP address, so the connection errors out and defaults back to LAN. The only thing I can suggest when stuff like that happens is keep practicing, keep looking at it, keep figuring out, wipe everything out and start fresh and do it again, and you'll learn every time that you do that, and eventually you'll figure out what is going wrong with your setup and you will get it fixed. Dylan, hello from Scotland. How's it going? Okay, so let's see. Are you going to join the Ubiquiti Discord channel? Willie is there often. Maybe. I don't have a lot of time for stuff like that, and frankly, I don't even know what Discord is. I've heard a lot about it. I know they talk about it a lot in the gaming world. I've never used Discord. I've never tried Discord, and so it's just one of those things that not only would I have to join the Discord channel and spend time there, but I would have to learn Discord, and just the learning curve and all that, we only have so much time in the day, guys, so I don't have time for that. So the answer is maybe someday I will. Let's see. Willie did a video on SSL with UniFi. Yes, he did. Anyone can buy beta products. That's true. Beta hardware is in the beta store. Yes, it is. Ronan, hey, how's it going, Ronan? Hey, from the UK. Do you prefer AWS or DigitalOcean? That's a great question. That's a really great question, Daniel. My own business UniFi controller that I have a bunch of clients on is hosted on AWS. It's expensive. The plus side to it is that it's a very, it's been around forever, so the EC2 platform is very stable and reliable. I never have problems with it. I think the security features that they give you, on top of even security in the operating system itself, the additional layer of Amazon security is also pretty good. The cons of using AWS is that their pricing structure, you have to have like a PhD to figure out the pricing of any of their servers. It's I think a little bit convoluted as opposed to DigitalOcean, where it's very clear. This server is $5 a month, this server is $10 a month, $20 a month, etc. Is much nicer. Yeah, so that my hosted UniFi controller costs me about $60 a month. I think that's probably a little bit pricey. If I switch it over to DigitalOcean, I could probably get it for about half that cost. But since I'm on AWS, it's working well. It's one of those, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I spend the extra money every month, basically just to save myself from having to go through the process of migrating that UniFi controller over to DigitalOcean. If I was going to start again today, I would probably start it on DigitalOcean as opposed to AWS. I really, really like DigitalOcean. Not only are their servers really easy to set up and implement, their user interface is very, very friendly, even to the point where, anytime you hover over an IP address, a little copy link pops up, and you can click on it and immediately copy an IP address, right? And so I love just little extras and the extra effort that they've gone through into making it a super, super good product. On top of that, DigitalOcean, what was the other thing I was just going to say? Oh, they have a very, very strong wiki and support help pages system. They have a really great, first steps after you install Ubuntu 16, right? First steps after you install Ubuntu 14, right? So they have very long, good articles on things that you should do, and I don't know. They've just got a lot of really great support help. It's a good company. Okay, so check out OVH.com. Pricing is great. Someone else mentioned OVH.com in the comments recently. I will check them out. Do you know if NanoStation ACs are coming out soon? I think so. I feel like I saw NanoStation ACs in the beta store. Everything in the beta store right now is sold out, with the exception of they've got like this brand new little device that you plug into an 802.3AF PoE port, and then it has a USB 3 on the end of it so that you can charge your iPhone off of a PoE port. I think that's pretty cool. Your iPhone or your whatever device that plugs in off a USB. I thought that was pretty cool. When can we expect the CloudKey 5.5.19 upgrade to appear in the software update maintenance page? I do not know. You'll have to ask Ubiquiti that question. I have no idea. Okay, another kudos for OVH. No clue, but it says included and all that. I was able to hack the UniFi controller logo and colors. Okay, good. I use Sophos routers for enterprise setups. Any video on port aggregation? I have not done any port aggregation videos. You got to understand, guys, the videos that I put out, when you get, the more specific and more technical your videos get on YouTube, the fewer views you get on YouTube, right? So if the point of my channel is to continue to grow, it makes more sense for me to spend my time doing videos that are more, I'm not going to say basic, because every topic that I cover is a little bit advanced, but more intermediate in nature rather than more, you know, obscure, I guess. UniFi video Corsair build. Yes, that is a video that's coming very soon. In fact, I have an entire Crosstalk NVR Corsair build. All the components are sitting about 5 feet away from me over there. So I'm going to be doing that after this live stream. I will be starting the build on that, that system. Okay. Not on topic for video Corsair build, but I wonder if you have experienced performance problems when using VLANs on a UniFi switch. I have not. I have not had performance problems with that. Can you make a video on how to set up OpenVPN on EdgeMax? I'm pretty sure that Willie did that video already. So I try not to duplicate stuff that Willie does, you know, and I think he kind of does the same thing. Okay, so let me do another question here. I'm going to take a break from these comments for a second. Let me switch back to this view. I'm going to switch over to another comment here. This comes from the, again, from the Ubiquiti Mesh Wireless video. This was 2 questions that I thought were pretty good. Chris9816 asks, hey Chris, I have a question. Is it possible if a link goes down and after it self-heals itself, can the Ubiquiti system email to let you know that the link went down? That's a great suggestion for Ubiquiti, because they should do that. I know that Ubiquiti in a future version of UniFi has a lot more notification tools coming out. I saw a screenshot, I think on Twitter or something, where they showed all of the new notification options that are coming. Whether this particular case is going to be one of the notification options, I do not know, but let's take it a step at a time, right? The first thing I'd like to see from UniFi is a notification when a device comes back online, right? So right now, if an access point or a device goes down, you get notified that, hey, there's a problem and this device went down, but you don't get any sort of problem or any sort of email when that device comes back up, right? So it sort of, you know, it would be nice if it went down and came back up a minute later, if you saw the second email and you're checking, you're like, oh great, I don't have to look into that anymore, check that one off the list, right? So that's at least one of the things that I know is coming. I don't know what version, but at some point it should be coming soon. And also, by the way, Chris also asked if a link goes down and after it self-heals itself. So let me point that out too. In my video, in this video that he's talking about, the Ubiquiti Mesh Wireless video, I did not find that the mesh system self-healed itself. After a link came back online, I had to manually go into UniFi and reattach it. Now, given enough time, maybe it would, but in my experience, it did not self-heal. Okay, also another question. If you create a mesh with 2 AP mesh and you plug both of them into its switch, would it create a loop? Oh, that is a good question, and I don't think so. Okay, so there is, in the UniFi switches, there is some level of spanning tree protocol enabled by default, and I think the STP would prevent any sort of network loops from happening if you did plug two mesh APs. So he's saying, like, you got a switch, you plug two mesh APs in, so they're connected through the switch, and they're also connected through the mesh wireless. I assume that it would be smart enough to handle that through the switch only, though I have not tested that. Where are the UniFi controller notification settings? I have SMTP info, but where can you configure notifications? Hang on, I will show you. Let me bring up my DigitalOcean UniFi server, test server. 1 second, guys. I'm doing this in my second window, so you don't see all of the other servers that I have. Okay. Notice, by the way, that this is on 5.5.19. Okay. Okay, so what device do I have down? Oh, yeah. I unplugged my, what did I unplug? I guess I unplugged my, why is this not back up? Move this chat out of the way for a second. Hang on a second, because I unplugged this yesterday, then I plugged it back in. Oh, okay, so my US8 150 watt, which is actually, oh, there's a link on it. I wonder why that hasn't shown as back up yet. Interesting. And then, of course, this is connected through that Edge UniFi switch as well. Anyways, okay, so let's see. Where do we set that? Settings. I think it's in controller. Yeah, right here. Mail server, SMTP server. Enable mail server, host name, username, password. So this is where you can set up all of your SMTP settings. It's under controller right here. Okay, let's keep going with the questions. Actually, let me pull this back in here, and let me go back to this view. Let's see if I missed anything here. Port aggregation. Lots of people want port aggregation. How to get more than 1 gig uplink between switches. Well, again, you can also, get switches that have SFP plus, which is 10 gig, and then, just run a fiber link between those. Okay, so let's see. Receiving emails on a down and up event would seem to be a standard feature, but the issue is not exclusive to Ubiquiti. Yeah, well, that's true. But it's just one of those things that it's been an open request for so long, and it seems like, again, I'm not a developer, and I don't work for Ubiquiti. It seems to me like that would be a relatively easy feature to build in, especially considering they're building in features like, onboard radius servers and stuff like that. Like, how much more difficult is it to do that than it would be to just put in an up notification when your devices come back online? Anyways. Okay, next question. This is on my 15-minute hosted UniFi controller setup video. Nice video, but you can install UniFi even faster using shameless plug. This link here, configures firewall, installs latest version of UniFi, and monitors failed login attempts. Okay, so great point. And this guy, Michael Tabor, whatever his name is, I actually saw that link when I was researching, the best way to get the 15 minutes hosted UniFi controller up and running. And Michael created a script that basically does everything. I mean, I haven't looked at the script. I assume it does a lot of what I did in the 15-minute setup video, but in one script command. So I'm sure it's a lot faster than what I did, and it's also, it's easier, right? Because you don't have to type all of the commands that I did. Now, the reason that I didn't do it as a script, or use, your script, Michael, is because if you just use a script like that, no one learns anything about it. Right, so I wanted to do something where you're actually manually doing all of the steps so that people that are setting it up learn about how to do the swap file, how to set up the firewall, how to manually install UniFi on a fresh Ubuntu install. Right, so the point of my video was like, hey, here's 15 minutes, you can get everything set up, and by the way, you're learning all these steps as you go. Okay. Hugo. Hey, Hugo, how's it going? Asks the question, the free PBX appliances are going to ship with version 14 from what date? And I do not have any visibility into that. I have no idea. I know that free PBX 14 was just made stable this week, but I don't know when they'll actually start shipping appliances with it. I would guess it would be at least a few months away before that starts happening. Okay. Let me go back to this view here. And this is on the, another old video, Edge Router X unboxing and setup. I know it's an old video because it's got a gray thumbnail. Okay, so Edge Router X. Can this router be used to segment your home network? I'm considering an Amazon Echo, but I would like to keep it separate from the rest of my network. So yeah, absolutely. Edge Router X can do VLANs, no problem. The problem with doing VLANs and IoT devices, such as Amazon Echo, I don't know if you consider Amazon Echo IoT, but it's I guess it's in that sort of category. Like when I think of things like Amazon Echo and segmenting an IoT network, I think of like Philips Hue lighting, Amazon Echo, smart refrigerators, all those sorts of things that are coming out. You can segment them into your own network, but the problem with doing that oftentimes is that you potentially lose connectivity to those devices. So a good example is Philips Hue. I use Philips Hue lighting for these lights that are like shining on my big head right now, right? And I control those Philips Hue lights with my iPhone. In order to control the Philips Hue lights, which go to this device here, I have to be on the same LAN. Okay, so that's the problem with a lot of these IoT devices, are separating out a lot of IoT devices onto their own network. It seems like a really good idea in theory, but you potentially lose the functionality of controlling the IoT device. So if I move, these lights to a separate LAN on their own network segment, even if I have control or permissions to fully access that network segment, like the application, the Philips Hue application only looks at your local /24 or your local network that you're connected to for the Philips Hue device. And so it's a little bit of extra administration. Not all devices are going to work well in a segregated network. Okay, last question that I have here. Oh, this is a great one. So again, on 15-minute hosted UniFi controller setup once again. I like this very much. So from Afif Ahmad, I like this very much. Do you know any resources to start learning Linux? There are a ton of resources out there, right? So YouTube would be the best place to start, right? I'm sure there are tons of YouTube videos on Linux basics. You want to start with a nice friendly distribution. I would recommend either Ubuntu or CentOS to start off with. And just the best advice I can give for resources to start learning Linux is use something like DigitalOcean and just start installing. Install Linux, experiment with it. Just get it working. Start figuring it out. Try to do things with it. Set a goal. I want to set up a web server with Linux. Okay, so that's your goal. Just start doing it and start hammering away at it and hammering away at it and hammering away at it. And eventually, you will get to the point where you have a web server running on Linux. And through the process from point A to point B, you will have learned a lot about Linux and how it works. The one thing that I would recommend also, I guess, is pick a distribution that you like and kind of stick with it before you learn other distributions. Like if you want to start on Ubuntu, start on Ubuntu, because the package management and software updates and all that sort of stuff, the commands that you use for that kind of stuff are going to vary from distribution to distribution. So don't confuse yourself with multiple distributions. Start with one that you want to start with, learn that as well as you can learn it, and then maybe move on to a different distribution. Okay, so Cisco had an awesome free course on Linux, or has an awesome free course on Linux, so there you go. There's another resource for you. I think there are going to be tons of resources out there, but for me, again, I learn best by doing. And so by doing, you can hop into something like DigitalOcean, fire up a $5 a month Ubuntu server instance, and just start playing with it. And if you screw it up, if you break something, just destroy it and start fresh. Okay, so let's see. When I previously, my networks, when I previously, how many people we got watching this thing? 132 people watching. Holy moly. Well, thank you, everyone, and welcome. Again, I'm going to go through the chats. I'm going to answer as many questions as I can. If you guys want a guaranteed answer to your questions, hit that super chat button, and I will guarantee answer that question. Okay, so my networks asks, when I previously, oh, I guess he's responding to someone else. When I previously administered a UniFi system, I saw it was available, but was unable to test it. Just wondered how useful it really was, especially for real-time uses. You know, I'm not sure what he's talking about there. Okay. Okay, so let's see. Walt, have you ever experienced Wi-Fi printing issues through a Mac or any other device on a UniFi network? Able to print on LAN with no issue? See the printer during config by IP, but can't find it when sending the job. No, I have not, but like I'm able to print to my printer over Wi-Fi from my phone. I'm able to print to my printer through my computer, which is directly wired into the LAN. My printer itself is directly wired into the LAN. Yeah, I have not seen that. I would, but here's the thing. Oh boy. Printing in general, and especially like printing, like remote printing or printing from multiple devices, is always kind of a pain in the ass, right? So there's ports that need to be open, there's ports that need to be used. Each different printer manufacturer uses different printing ports and has different methods for remote printing, Wi-Fi printing, local printing, etc. And yeah. Oh, and Retronics, this is not a build video. Sorry, I mentioned at the very beginning of this live stream that I just forgot to update the thumbnail before I started the live stream. So this doesn't have anything to do with NVR build. Okay, so comments on a cloud controller overview page. I would find this very helpful to see what sites are having issues. They do have that. They do have a cloud controller overview page. They have a, there's one in the single sign-on, right? So if you go into, let me switch to this view here. If you go to the ubnt.unifi.com, no, backwards, unifi.ubnt.com, you can see a live overview of all of your cloud-hosted, your cloud-connected UniFi controllers. So you do get that. And then also within UniFi itself, let me just bring this down a little bit, actually. I'll bring this over here, makes it easier to see. Within UniFi itself, you have the sites overview. Okay, so sites overview, if you have a ton of sites on your UniFi controller, you can see here. Here's the number of alerts. I can see that right now my WAN is fine because it's green and it's firewalled. My LAN is having problems. There's a red icon here. Okay, so if you have 100 sites on UniFi, you can very clearly see which ones have issues and which ones are all good. You also get a lot of, like, you know, here's the wireless network, active devices, here's your users and guests, who's wired versus wireless. So you get a lot of information on this site's overview page. So they've done a lot of work there. Again, why mine is offline, I don't know. Oh, there it goes. See that? Look how weird this is. My AC light, which is connected through the UniFi switch, is online, but my UniFi switch is still showing disconnected. That's very weird. I upgraded to 5.5.19, and I have an upgrade available for the USG here. You know what? Let me just reboot the UniFi switch, and we'll see if that comes back. Because I did, last night I was playing around with it, and I just moved the UniFi switch into my own LAN without changing its UniFi controller. And I did that just temporarily and then moved it back. So I'm sure that's what has caused this weird little issue here. But we will keep going. What do you think about MikroTik? I've talked about that many times in the past. MikroTik, I think they make good devices. I think they're very cost effective. I think the model number nomenclature leaves a lot to be desired. It's very difficult to tell which devices you need and which device you're purchasing. And I think the router OS is frankly pretty ugly, especially when you compare it to something like UniFi. You may dislike Apple. First of all, I don't dislike Apple. but you've got to love AirPrint just working out of the box without much of a hassle. Yeah, I guess that's true. Welcome from Western Australia. Western Australia. I've never been to Western Australia. I've been to Eastern Australia. I love Melbourne. It's absolutely one of my favorite cities in the world. And I spent a lot of time in Melbourne, and then I did a really nice road trip where I was in Sydney, Australia, and we drove from Sydney all the way up to Brisbane, and that took about, I think it was like 3 or 4 day road trip. We just took our time and drove through and saw the sights, and yeah, that was a really, really great trip. That was in 2004. That was 13 years ago I did that trip. So, but I still love it, and I'd love to go back to Australia someday. I'd like to take my family there. Some printers can be a big pain in the butt to install on Windows. You're absolutely right. Genanias? I don't know how to pronounce your name. Chris, at what point would you switch from cloud keys to a hosted UniFi controller? That's a really great question. I wouldn't put more than 1 or 2 sites on a cloud key. You know, once you're above that number of sites, it's probably best to have a centralized controller, and to me, having a cloud-hosted centralized controller is a really good option. So there you have it. Probably if I was more than 2 sites, I would get off of a cloud key. Okay, please do a long video of a full network installation. I did. I think it was like a 30-minute video on a complete UniFi setup start to finish. That was a USG, a UniFi switch, and an access point. So there you go. What more do you need? That had a guest network and everything. From what amount of clients do you recommend the USG Pro over the regular one? That's a good question. I would say that the amount of clients would probably be... I mean, honestly, if I'm installing a firewall for a company that has probably more than about like 25 or 30 people, I'd probably just bump to the USG Pro by default. You know, the difference in cost, you got to look at the cost of the device versus the number of users that it's servicing, right? And you can almost make that a ratio of like cost per user, right? So if the USG is, you know, $99, or we'll round it up to $100 for easy math. I think it's more like $91 or something. But if the USG is, say it's $100 for 10 users, that's $10 a user, right? For 30 users, it's, you know, a lot less than that. It's 30 cents a user or whatever. But I would probably go higher at 30 users to the USG Pro, which is in the $350 range. You're still sticking about that $10 a user mark or higher, right? So maybe that's not a good way to look at it. But to me, it's like, the more users you have that are going to be using it, the more funds you should be contributing towards IT for better equipment. Okay, maybe that's the better way to say it. Okay, so let's see. Is it possible to store DPI data beyond live view? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't look at DPI that often. Let's see. Where's my DPI? Wireless clients. I don't even know where to get to it. Insights. I know DPI is on the dashboard here. So is there like a historical view of DPI? I don't know if there's a historical view of DPI. That's a really good question. Oh, sorry guys, I keep forgetting to switch the screen. I got to DPI by just going to the dashboard and then clicking on DPI right here. I know there's all sorts of statistics. Oh, so here, traffic stats. But it doesn't look like there's anything historical. Insights. Known clients. Oh, here we go. So let's see. Do we have traffic stats for the last, or any DPI for the last? Doesn't really look like it. I could be wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I don't really see a way to do historical DPI views. Let's look at my devices now. Yeah, look at this thing is still disconnected. Isn't that crazy? Huh. Maybe I'll factory reset it, and I'll do it again. Look, I've got a factory reset tool. See this? This is my factory reset tool. This is actually one of those things that comes when you buy a new doorknob that has a lock, and it's made to stick in the, you know, the non-locking side of the doorknob to unlock it, like for a bathroom door or something. And it makes for a great factory reset tool. So let's go ahead and factory reset my US 8 150 watt. There we go. Okay, so now we'll keep our eye on that. It should, since it's connected through this USG, it should eventually pop up available for adoption again here soon. Okay, so let's see here. Pete says, what type of cable would you run for a 230-foot network run? Cat 6, fiber. So 230 feet is well within the 155-meter limit of Ethernet. So it really doesn't matter. And the cost difference between Cat 5e and Cat 6 is fairly minimal. So if that were the case, I would likely be doing Cat 6. If you're running in walls, you want to make sure that you are Cat 6 plenum. And if you are running outdoors, you want to make sure you have an outdoor rated cable that has UV protection. You could also run fiber in that instance. There's no problem with running fiber for that as well, except you do have to have switches that can terminate fiber on both sides. Okay, these live QA chats would be really great podcasts. Well, yeah, they're on YouTube after the fact, so there you guys have it. Oh, and look, Retronics basically said the exact same thing I did. Wonderful. Are UniFi cameras worth it because of an existing UniFi network setup, and is the quality worth the price? That's another really good question. And whether UniFi camera systems are worth the price is not something that I'm very qualified to answer. I've only ever sold UniFi camera systems. Okay, so I don't have a lot of experience in more cost-effective camera systems and the quality of said cost-effective camera systems. Okay, so I think the UniFi stuff is great. I have customers that absolutely love it. They love the fact that it's so easy to use. It's very easy to remote view. The interface is super intuitive for people that aren't very technical, and they work very well. Okay, as long as the NVR is sized properly. I have some other customers that I originally put on 12 cameras on the the Ubiquiti NVR, and I have since had to replace that with an actual server NVR instead because there were just bugs and problems having too many cameras connected to that little NVR box, which is why I am now creating Crosstalk NVR solutions. They will be on my webpage soon. Okay, so let's see. Can you use UniFi cameras with just the switch? DVR capability is not a requirement. Yeah, the UniFi cameras do have a standalone mode. Yes. Okay, more cable stuff. Now I feel smart saying the same thing. Well, listen, I don't know about that. Just because I'm on YouTube doesn't make me smart. Okay, so let's see. I was driving and listening. Data is worth its weight in gold if data weighed something. Oh, that's true. Do you think Ubiquiti will release new cameras soon? I haven't the slightest idea. I don't think so. I mean, the G3s aren't that old. They're, only about a year old, so I wouldn't imagine that they are going to release new cameras soon, but you never know. Okay, look at this. So this just popped up for adoption. I now have my US 8 150 watt ready to adopt. I'm going to go ahead and say adopt on that. Again, I don't know why that became unadopted. That's very strange. But I also just updated this to 5.5.19, and I don't have much 5.5.19 experience yet. Oh, GNone is. GNone is. Okay, got it. Okay, well, as long as I have you guys here, I guess I can do a small review. Hang on a second, let me show you something that I just got. 1 second. This at least sort of fits in with the thumbnail as well. You guys know that I am a huge fan of cases, and I just got this in yesterday, and I'm very, very happy with it. This is going to be for an NVR build. This is the Corsair Obsidian Series 250D Micro ITX case and motherboard. Beautiful, isn't it? Look at this. So here we have on the front, we have a full I think it's 5 1/4 inch drive bay. Is it 5 1/4 or 5 1/2? Whatever it is. I think it's 5 1/4. We also have 2 USB 3 ports on the front, as well as a microphone and headset plug. We have a... Is this the power button? I guess this is the power button right here. And then there's a little reset switch as well. This front panel, I think, comes down. I said I just got this, and I took a quick look at it, unboxed it and looked at it, but I haven't really investigated it too much. Humongous fan up front. So there's like air. So when this is closed, the air comes in the sides here, like this. And then look at the sides. There's a 140 millimeter fan right in the front of this thing. Right there. Beautiful. So that's a nice front case thing. That's interesting. I wonder how much airflow. I don't think this would obstruct the airflow at all. I mean, Corsair is good at designing cases, so I don't think they would have done that to obstruct the airflow. But let's take a look. So look at this on top. Oh, there's my nice micro ITX viewing window. Look at that. I haven't peeled the plastic off of that yet, so it maybe looks a little foggy on camera. But that is nice. Everything is a very cool toolless design. This case can have a full-size power supply right down here, which is separated into its own sort of section. And then here is where the hard drives go, right on the side. Let me pull out these little thumb screws. Everything is toolless in this case. I used to have this case. It's quite nice. Yeah. So we got people that are saying, it'd be cool if you made a sticker of your logo and placed it over the Corsair logo on the front of the case, a big sticker. Yeah, it would be. I've thought about doing Crosstalk stickers to put on my PBX systems that I sell. Jay. And yeah, maybe, whoa. Yeah, maybe someday I will do that. But here we go. So the drive bays, we've got two 3.5-inch drive bays. Again, all toolless. Everything is just straight up toolless. It's got these little pegs on the side. And then we've got two of the 2.5-inch drive bays as well. Come on, get in there. So two of the 2.5-inchers, two of the 3.5-inchers. All toolless design on the hard drive stuff. Then this is, of course, where the motherboard or the motherboard's going to sit. And let me pop off the top. Crosstalk merch, yeah, I should. And Jay had a very good comment. Jay said, "Would you say you're a huge fan of huge case fans?" I would say that I am, absolutely. So here we go, up top. Look at inside of this thing. So we've got another fan. So we've got a 120 millimeter fan on the side. So we've got the 140 sucking air in the front and then pushing air out the back. We have another space for two smaller 80 millimeter fans right here in the back if you wanted to put more fans in the case. And from what I understand, this has room on the side here for a full-size graphics card. And I think you can replace the front fan and fit a full radiator in here as well if you wanted to. So this is a really awesome small form factor case. And then here, of course, the micro ITX motherboard fits right there. And that's that. So this is going to be the case that I'm using for what I'm calling the Crosstalk NVR 10. This is going to be for up to, about 20 cameras or so. And it's got a Core i3 processor. I'm going to do a video on that very soon. In fact, I'm going to record that video right after this live stream. So look for that coming soon. Anyways, awesome case. I thought I would show that to you guys. All right, so let's see here. I'll put this back together later. Sorry, I gotta make sure I don't lose any of those thumb screws. Okay, and I tried, by the way, to become sponsored by Corsair. I reached out to them, and they didn't respond to me at all. So you have to be apparently a lot more than 30,000 subscribers on YouTube before Corsair even looks at you. Okay, so I did get a super chat. Clementoso, thank you very much. €5 on the super chat. I think that's euros, right? Isn't that euro? That's a euro. Not like a euro, not like something you eat, but like a euro. Thanks for the great answer on the USG question. Another one. How do you handle updating all devices on your controller? You don't like auto, right? And you're right, I don't. So how do I handle anytime I go through and do a UniFi controller update, which I probably only do once every like 3 to 6 months. I don't update my own UniFi controller unless I really need to, because again, it's a production system. I don't like messing with a production system unless there's a real need to do so. So for instance, if I have people on my UniFi controller that have devices that my UniFi controller version doesn't support yet, it kind of forces my hand into an upgrade. Or if there's like security fixes that are important enough, or feature improvements that are important enough for me to actually do the upgrade. I think my own UniFi controller is like 5.4. I want to say 14 or something right now. It's a few versions back. But when I update my UniFi controller, I sit there and I babysit it, and I manually update every single device, and I watch it through to completion. So basically, I start from the top of my sites list. I update, 1 or 2 devices. I go to the next site. I update some devices. I go to the next site, the next site, the next site, the next site, blah, blah, blah. And then by the time I cycle back around to the top site, those first ones that I updated should be updated, and then I do any other things that need updating on that site, and I just keep going through the sites list over and over and over again until everything is completely updated. So it takes time, it takes effort to do it that way, but it's the most safe and secure way as far as I can tell. And yes, Ventilar points out that I called it the Crosstalk NVR 10, and it supports up to 20 cameras. The reason I call it that is because it's made for a base of 10 cameras, right? So I would sell this to someone who has 10 to 20 cameras. So that's why it's called the NVR 10. I have a separate build, which is the one that I did on a live stream last week, that is the Crosstalk NVR 20, the Core i5 based system that is from 20 up to, maybe 40, 35, 40 cameras. I don't put a lot of thought into the marketing, guys. I'm not a marketing guy. Okay, so, all right, so Michael says, let's go back up one. Is it possible to, quote, book a Skype session with you? Would like to discuss my IT career with you. So, typically not, right? So I don't typically do that kind of stuff. I am almost constantly booked, right? If I stopped and didn't get any new work starting right now, I would have enough work to last me at least a week, if not longer, right? So I am constantly booked up, and I have, Crosstalk Solutions, I'm kind of the face of Crosstalk Solutions, if you will, but there's a lot of guys behind the scenes that work with me. There's like 7 guys. I've got 5 FreePBX guys and 2 UniFi guys that that do a lot of the actual work that comes in, okay? So it's not just me. This is a decent-sized company, and yeah, so my time, unfortunately, is fairly limited, so I don't really do a lot of the like a personal Skype session or something like that. If you got me 2 years ago, yeah, I would have been able to do that, absolutely. So I hate to put it that way, because it's always shitty to me when someone's like, "No, I don't have time for that stupid shit," but it's just one of those things. So thank you, though. I do appreciate that. And if you do have career questions that you would like to ask, put them in this chat or do a super chat, and I will absolutely answer any career type questions that you have, because I've done a lot of things in my own career. I've been in IT for coming up on 22 years now, and so it's something that I have a decent amount of experience with. I've been hired, I've been fired, I've also hired and fired. So, so there's a lot of, I've seen all aspects of an IT career. Okay, thank you for the question. Michael asks, Chris, after following the free PBX 101, have some additional research. I have a great PBX system for my small business. Wonderful. But toll-free numbers have no sound. Did I miss something in the 101 tutorial? Toll-free numbers inbound have no sound. I assume that's what you're saying. So toll-free phone numbers typically forward to a pilot DID, right? So there's like a, like you'll have 555-1212, and then 800-555-1212 just forwards to that standard DID. That's typically the way it works. If you have no sound on toll-free numbers only, I would think, but you do have sound on the pilot number, I would think that the problem has more to do with the forwarding of the toll-free to the pilot than it does of anything in the free PBX itself. But again, without knowing the situation, it's very difficult to say. Hi from the UK. Hey, how's it going? Carter, how's it going? Let's see. Not as beefy, but laughed a lot with the beefy NVR video. Yeah, this is definitely not as beefy as the NVR, but it's very rare that you run across situations where someone needs a 50 camera NVR, right? I mean, that's a big ass system, right? That's a beefy ass system. So that was a pretty rare thing that I came across. Okay, let's see. Oh, by the way, guys, if you look here now, everything is all green. I am back to my all green bubbles because I just had to readopt that device. So again, just goes to show, look, troubleshooting 101, guys. If something's not working, especially in UniFi, factory reset it, because this device's MAC address was already set up. You know, it was already set up to have the static IP address. It was already set up to have all of the port configuration that it has, including the 24-volt passive port that's powering a UAP-AC Lite right there. So all I had to do was factory reset it and readopt it, and it got all of its settings again. It's one of the beautiful things about UniFi. And now it's all done, and it's reconnected. Okay, so let's see. NVR, untangle, blah, blah, blah. I think you should update access points first, then switches, then USGs. When updating APs, you can temporarily increase power to fill in covered, blah, 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 blah. So I kind of do that, Hector. That's actually exactly the order that I go in, is access points first, then switches, then firewalls. And I typically don't worry about, you know, bumping power on other access points to cover the ones that are down or anything like that. And the reason I don't is because I usually, when I update my UniFi, I do it in the middle of the night when people are closed for business. I envy you with the full box of Sangoma S405 phones. Yeah, I just put that out on Twitter. If you guys don't follow me on Twitter, it's at Crosstalk Solutions. I put out a picture yesterday of a phone order that I got that was, it was actually 18 S405s and 6 S500s. So I've got them sitting in boxes right next to me here. I just finished setting those up yesterday. Okay, do you plan on making any more of the consultant videos? Maybe. Maybe. I don't really... I make videos when I come up with a good topic for discussion. I want all of the content on my channel to be meaningful to the people that are watching it. And so if, you know, if I get, if I come up with a topic that I think would work in that realm, I will absolutely do it. His Love Army, why did you get fired? Haha. I didn't get fired. Technically, I got laid off. Myself, as well as my entire department, got laid off because they outsourced my department to the Philippines. That's why I got laid off. Mostly it was to cut costs of US-based employees. Okay, so are your UniFi builds always on Linux, or do you ever use Windows or Mac versions? Mostly my UniFi builds are on Linux. I have used UniFi and Mac both in the past, though. Okay, so let's see. I'm having a problem with my production UniFi network. Any ideas? No. So Chad, again, there's not nearly enough information for me to tell you what could possibly be going wrong with your network. You didn't really even say what the actual problem was. I'm having problems with my production UniFi Wi-Fi network. The guest network works fine. I mean, again, it's just one of those things. You got to look at the settings, try different settings, and you'll kind of figure it out. Yeah, there you go. Hector said, what kind of problems? Okay, so Retronics, I'm leaving school next year and need to start studying. I want to start learning Ubiquiti networks, but I have no idea where to start. I can't get my hands on equipment because it's expensive. eBay, right? So eBay is a good place to get older, you know, cheaper equipment. You could probably find like the original UAPs, like the 2.4 version UAPs, which still work today. They work just fine. You could probably find them for, I imagine, like 20 bucks or less on eBay. Maybe someone can put a link if you do a search for the old UAPs. But just start searching eBay. Case in point, I have a pair of Ruckus Wireless P300s. It's a 2x2 MIMO Ruckus wireless bridge set. and I got a set of those access points from eBay for $300, and those access points go for $900 each. Okay, so I got a really killer deal on eBay. I've had them sitting around my office for 6 months. I've been meaning to do a video on that, the Ruckus P300 wireless bridge. I haven't gotten around to it yet. Again, time and just being busy. Thankfully I'm busy, right? I love being busy because it means that work is coming in. Yeah. Rob asks a really good question. Rob Taylor, can you explain why UniFi 5.4.19 is released after 5.5.19? So that's a really great question. If you look at UniFi blog, I noticed the same thing yesterday. You'll see that the latest release here, so it went UniFi 5.5.19 stable has been released, and then UniFi 5.4.19 stable candidate was released after that. And the reason is they've got two different tracks going. They've got a 5.5 track and they've got a 5.4 track. In fact, I recorded a video yesterday on how to update from the 5.4 track to the 5.5 track as I did my own UniFi. Let me switch my screen. Here's what I was talking about here. So 5.5.19 was released, then 5.4.19 candidate was released. I did my own video when I updated mine to 5.5.19, but then I watched the video back and I just thought it sucked. So it will never hit YouTube, and so yeah, there you have it. They're not all great. What can you say? Hey, Brandon joined in. Hey, Brandon, how's it going, buddy? Brandon is one of our Crosstalk employees that I was talking about earlier. He's been on the channel before. He is our point-to-multipoint and wireless bridge, wireless ISP expert. He also plays PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds with me from time to time. Okay, so I'm trying to scroll back here. So, so the answer to your question, though, is I haven't the slightest idea why they did that, other than they're separate tracks, and it's just the way that it worked out. All right, I'm going to skip forward. Again, guys, if I missed a question of yours, you can always super chat, and let's see let's pick some down here. So, hi, can you do a video on how to make my cloud key adoptable over UniFi? So the cloud key, you might be mistaken. The cloud key is UniFi, right? So the cloud key is just a UniFi server. It's not something that really needs to be adopted. It's just something that you need to find on your network and log into. All right, super chat from Michael Duddy, $10 Canadian. Thank you so much. Thanks for the inbound explanation, Chris. I do have the inbound working, but it is actually outbound. I had found that it was suggested that stun server setup. Thanks again. So are we talking about, is this going back to the toll-free number thing? I forget. I don't ever use stun in my own setups, but if you're talking about an outbound toll-free number not working, there is a weird thing with outbound toll-free numbers, and I learned this a couple years ago. If your caller ID outbound is a toll-free number, other toll-free numbers that you're calling might block you. Okay? So what I do in FreePBX is if a customer needs a toll-free number as their outbound caller ID, I set up two separate outbound routes. I set up one for normal calls, so non-toll-free numbers, and I set up a separate outbound route for toll-free numbers. So in the US, that's going to be 800, 855, 866, 877, 888, etc. And on the outbound route where we're calling toll-free numbers, I make sure that the caller ID we're outpulsing is not a toll-free number. And then that seems to work just fine. So maybe that's your problem. Again, it's tough to say based on what the information given, but that could be it. I know that that is a known problem with toll-free numbers, where a lot of toll-free inbound won't accept calls from other toll-free numbers, so calls just straight up fail. What's the trick to get to 5.5.19? That's a great question. I will show you. Let me log into my DigitalOcean server. This is my test server, by the way. Let me make sure. Hang on a second here. Okay. Okay, so let me increase the font size a little bit here, make it easier to see. Oops. Right click. Right click does a paste in PuTTY, for anyone who doesn't know. Okay, so let's do change settings. Appearance, change. Let's bump this up to like 20. Make that a little bit easier to see. There we go. Okay, so if you are on Ubuntu or some Debian flavor, you can do this. Go to your sources list for UniFi. So that's going to be etc apt sources.list.d. Okay, now in here, I have one, custom repository that I put in for Ubiquiti. If I say cat 100-ubnt.list, actually let me nano it instead because I think it changes the colors. Nano-w 100-ubnt.list. There we go. Okay, so that makes it a little bit easier to see. Boy, it's still tough to see. Sorry about that, guys. Hang on, let me change the font again. Maybe I can make it even bigger. 28. All right, that's a little bit better. Okay, so, oh boy. Wah! Sorry, guys. Okay, here we go. Okay, so there we go. So here is the contents of 100-ubnt.list. Now, by default, when you are putting this in, it's set to... Man, I got to get my cursor over there. So by default, when you first put this file in, copied and pasted from Ubiquiti, it shows up like this, stable. Okay? That means that the line where you're downloading UniFi is on the stable track. Okay? Now, if you look down here, it says the following is a mapping of suite name to code name. Okay? So we can see stable is currently UniFi-5.4. The testing track, which is like, I don't know if that's considered beta, but it's considered whatever testing track, that is on UniFi 5.5. Okay, so there's your 5.5. So if you want to change so that you are upgrading to 5.5, you want to change this stable to either testing or UniFi 5.5, like that, and then save and exit. Okay, so now that you've made that change, you can do sudo apt get install UniFi, and it will try to install it. Now, in my case, we can see UniFi is already on the newest version, 5.5-.19. Okay, so that's how you do it. That's how you move from 5.4 to 5.5. I'm going to upgrade this USG while I'm in here. I'm not connected through this USG or anything, so don't worry about it. All right, super chat from Christopher or Christoph Sturkins. He says, okay, I asked my question wrong. I mean, I host my UniFi on a Linux server at my own host. How do I make my clients' access points, for example, adoptable over UniFi? My own server /hostname.com instead on IP of the server and port.com. Okay, so there's a few things that you have to do. Number one, you have to make sure that in your firewall, pointed through to your UniFi controller, you have all of the appropriate ports open. So off the top of my head, that's going to be 8080, TCP 8080, 8443, 8880, and 8843. There's also, I believe, a UDP stun port that needs to be open as well. Okay, so that's step one, is make sure that those ports are open inbound through your firewall to the UniFi controller. Step two, create a DNS-A record for whatever .hostname.com you want and point it to the WAN IP address of your UniFi controller. That's it. Once you have those two things done, you've now got a UniFi controller that is accessible using the FQDN over the internet, and then in your client's machines, you can create a new site. So for instance, here we see default site. I can say, add a new site, and then create a new site for a client, and then you want to set inform the devices so that it's, set inform, set-inform, http fqdn.com :8080/inform. Bring this up here so you guys can see it like that. like that. Okay, so this is what you want to run on your devices. I have found that running the set inform command via SSH is typically a lot more reliable than running the set inform command using any graphical-based Ubiquiti tool, including the discovery tool. Hopefully that answers your question. So for 20 euros, I hope that was worth 20 euros to you. Thanks, man. I just certainly appreciate it. Okay. So it's just an A record. Yes, that is correct. It's just an A record. That's the one thing about IT, guys. And this is something that I've thought about doing, like a UniFi or a networking basics type videos, video series. There's not a lot of mystery to things like DNS. There's not a lot of mystery to things like DHCP, right? It's just one of those things, though. Until it clicks, it's like, how does this work? You know, what is this A record? How do I get this to resolve to this host name? But then you just realize, well, log into your DNS server, create an A record that points this name to this IP address, and you can make up the name. It can be whatever you want. So that's just one of the things about, you know, DNS, networking. Oh, look at this. Heartbeat missed. Oh, because my USG is upgrading. Sorry, these both just popped into heartbeat missed because I forgot I was upgrading my USG. I can see the top of my USG is flashing white. Okay, awesome. Well, I'm glad that helped. And yeah, guys, any other questions, let me know. I was planning on doing this for an hour, so I got about 20 more minutes. If you guys want a question, now's the time. And yes, Andy is correct. You can also use a CNAME. Where to use CNAME versus A record is a totally different topic, you know. But A record is probably easiest. CNAME is for when you want one FQDN to just point to not an IP address but another FQDN. Okay, Michael asks, did you hear any news about external dual band AC outdoor antennas? Nope, I have not. I have not heard any news about that. Pardon me. Okay, so Jacob, CNAME is nice for something like Synology that supplies a dynamic DNS record, and you can map that to your own domain. Yeah, you're exactly right. Wayne asks, hi, I have a question that is different to this topic. Can I ask? Yes, please, Wayne, ask away. Go right ahead. Cody asks, I need a server to support about 40 to 50 cameras. I'm thinking about building it, but I don't know what would be the specifications to run so many cameras other than storage. Cody, go back through the Crosstalk Solutions videos and look for a video called Beefy NVR Server Build. That video was a build that I did to support 50 cameras. So that should answer your question. And we can see that, look, my stuff is now coming back online. So we see that the UAPAC light is back online. I bet this will refresh and come back any second now. I'm having problems with this UniFi switch today. This is a brand new UniFi switch. I just got this last week. I had to give my old UniFi switch away to a client, so I bought a new one for my home office here. Weird. All right, so here we go. Let's see. Do you see any value, or have you ever used Domotes for network remote monitoring? I have not. I don't have a network remote monitoring tool other than UniFi. It's not really the business that I'm in. I don't do a lot of like managing of clients' networks other than, you know, the people that I've installed UniFi systems for. So I'm not that familiar with the various types of network monitoring out there. Nagios, I guess, is probably where I would start if I was going to start with something. I've done Nagios installs on like Raspberry Pis, and that works pretty good. Could you do a teardown of the UniFi switch? I'm not sure what you mean exactly by that. I mean, like physically, like open it up and tear it down, or you just want a good overview of UniFi? Because I've done a lot of UniFi switch videos where I set them up and I talk about their features and stuff. You can go through my Crosstalk video history for that kind of stuff. By the way, I don't know if Brandon is still on the live stream, but typically when I know Brandon does work for customers where there's anytime there's a need for a type of server for either like AirView or for UniFi or an NVR system. Brandon likes to get refurbished Dell servers from like Amazon. And refurbished Dell servers are typically really solid and they're pretty cost effective. Like you can get a super solid multi-core Dell server for like $250 to $400 range. So check that out as well. Refurbished Dell servers are a good sort of cost-effective alternative to like the stuff that I'm building. Regarding VLAN and not getting IP, I had set up the network as VLAN only. I deleted and created as corporate and give it an IP address. What is the purpose of VLAN only? That's a great question. And frankly, I don't use VLAN only ever, so I couldn't tell you what that's really used for. I'm sure there is a reason for it, because why wouldn't there be? I mean, maybe VLAN only is used if you're just like if you have a like a different router that's providing your VLANs other than UniFi or a USG. I mean, maybe like if you were using like a SonicWall firewall and that's doing your VLANs, maybe VLAN only is a way to just pass those VLANs through UniFi. I mean, that's my best guess. I don't know. I've never used it, so I can't tell you, but that seems like it would make sense. Okay, so Rob, I didn't realize that 5.5 is not the stable track. UniFi downloads webpage. Yeah, well, their downloads webpage is confusing. You're right. I currently have about 116 sites on my cloud controller. Do you know of any limits to the amount of sites? I don't have 115 on mine, so I'm not sure. All right, here's Wayne's question. Okay, I am kind of a newbie, and I'm trying to create with multipoint with a NanoStation M2 to around 10 other NanoStation M2s within a 500-meter diameter. Kindly give me your best advice. I'm not sure that the NanoStation M2 is a point-to-multipoint device. Brandon, if you're still on the stream, maybe you can tell me, but I think the NanoStation M2 is just point-to-point, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe that's the problem. I would probably, if you were going to want to do a point-to-multipoint between an access point and 10 stations on the 2.4 gigahertz band, I would probably do a Rocket M2 with either a sector or an Omni antenna, and then use the NanoStation M2s as just the stations, because the Rockets I find are really good access points as opposed to anything else. So Brandon does say that, and Michael both say that the NanoStation M2 can be point-to-multipoint. Okay, well, Brandon, what would you recommend in that instance? I mean, it can be point-to-multipoint, but would you go one NanoStation M2 access point out to 10 NanoStation M2 stations, or would you prefer to do something like a Rocket? I think I know the answer. That's a loaded question. George says, I'm building a 3.65 mile backhaul with two M900s with the cross-pole 16 dB antennas in these mountains, but with some line of sight. Have you ever used the M900s skimming the tops of trees? If I'm not mistaken, the 900 megahertz band can actually go like through trees, so you should be okay there. I think just like any point-to-point, height is the key, right? So you want to make sure that you have as much height on those antennas as possible. So Brandon says, depends on how much throughput they need. I guess you're right, because the Rocket's going to have more throughput than a NanoStation M2. Yeah, M900 should work fine in that case, absolutely. Yep, there's the Rocket. Yeah, Hector, great point. So Willie did do a video at one point where he set up a 900 megahertz bridge through a stand of trees, and it worked perfectly fine. So yeah, go back through Willie Howe's videos. You'll find that that information. Oh, I meant to only go an hour, and it's actually been an hour and 20 minutes. I thought that I started at 12:30 and I was going to end at 1:30, but I started at 12. So we'll give it about 10 more minutes, guys. Any more questions, go ahead and put them in now, And this video, I think, is long enough at this point. Yeah, Pico stations, I don't like Pico stations in general. I don't really use them in my own builds. You guys take a look at my UniFi. This UniFi switch is still showing disconnected. Even though it is 100% connected, it's literally plugged from this port directly into the USG LAN port. So I don't know what the deal is with this UniFi switch. I don't know if this is a weird 5.5.19 bug, but even after I rebooted it, it didn't work. So I'm going to use my handy factory reset tool, and I'm going to factory reset that guy one more time. You shouldn't have to do this. This is weird. I've actually never seen this happen before. I had the same setup running on 5.4.18 for a long time without any sort of problem. So hopefully this is a bug that gets fixed, but a word of warning, even though 5.5.19 was moved to the stable track, kind of, it's not the Ethernet cable, Carter. I've used the same Ethernet cable for ages on this same setup, so I doubt that it's the Ethernet cable. But I would say it's more of a bug within UniFi, because you guys have seen twice on this live stream now, just doing an upgrade, the US 8 150 watt has gone offline. Hector confirms 5.5.19 has been doing some weird things. So yeah, word of warning, don't make 5.5.19, I wouldn't put that in production just yet. Is it possible to run FreePBX on a virtual machine for testing purposes? Matt Robbins asks. Absolutely. In fact, I did a video on how to install FreePBX in VMware. So it's a very, very old video. It's one of, God, it's at least 2 years old. But you can go back through my videos and find that one, and you should be able to find it. And yeah, absolutely, it'll work. I personally don't prefer to run FreePBX in virtual machines in production, though I do know people that have done that successfully. What's your favorite Ethernet cable brand? It's Monoprice, believe it or not. I get all my Ethernet cables from Monoprice. Okay, so here we go, back to this switch. Now look, I'm back to adopt. I'm going to go ahead and adopt it out, and it should come back up just fine. Is there a kink in your network cable? There is no kink in the network cable. It's not a hose. Is there a guide somewhere for which devices are best to use for a given use? Nano beam versus light beam versus power beam versus ISO station. No, there is not a guide for that. And that, to me, when I first started getting into the Ubiquiti point-to-point stuff, was absolutely one of the most confusing things possible, right? So it was very confusing what device to use where, and I didn't really even get that cleared up until I just started buying equipment. I just started buying devices and hooking them up and figuring them out, and eventually it kind of got to the point where, like, okay, great, we'll use this here, we'll use that there. To make things worse, there's a lot of overlap, right? So you can use a power beam in the same place that you use a nano station, and it could work fine in both of those instances. But, you know, the difference being that a power beam has a much narrower beam, whereas a nano station is a little bit wider. I think it's like a 6 or 10 degree on the power beam, and I think it might be 60 degree on the nano station. I don't know. Brandon's my guy for that stuff, so he probably knows. So Matt says Wi-Fi is still more of an art than a science. There's not a universal solution that works everywhere. You're absolutely right. What you do is you give it the best shot, right? So if you look at a situation, this is what we do with customers all the time. We look at their situation and we tell them this is what we believe is going to be your best bet. And that comes from nothing else other than experience in working with the equipment. Lars, what do you think about Cisco and Aruba wireless solutions? I don't know much about them. I'm sure they work fine. They're also very expensive. So for my clientele, I prefer to use Ubiquiti. If I was going to be installing a system at a, at a Westin, hotel in like a very popular tourist destination, would I use Ubiquiti? Probably not. I would probably go for something like Aruba or Meraki or Ruckus or something that's a little bit more sort of on the higher end of Wi-Fi. But it's more in that case about support availability and licensing and, you know, the ability to be able to call Cisco or call Aruba if you need to and if you have a problem. Yes, we do have a spammer. Let me see if I can block the spammer. Report or block? I guess I'll report. There we go. Okay, so did you figure out the burning smell you had yesterday in your office? So again, if you guys follow me on Twitter, you'll see that I put out something yesterday. I had this weird electrical, like a very faint electrical burning smell in my office. I did not figure out what it was, but it went away. So I just eventually stopped worrying about it. I dropped my Aruba relationship because their support was so bad. Well, that's good feedback. I've never worked with Aruba systems. I've never worked with Aruba support. I can't speak to whether they're good or bad, but yeah. UniFi seems to be getting more attention than EdgeMax. Jacob, I think you're exactly right, and I think, I mean, again, just looking at what's happening, I think they're trying to move everything towards UniFi. I mean, if you look at UniFi, you know, there's a lot of stuff in here now that's very EdgeMax-esque, including, I believe, and I haven't looked for this yet. I installed this 5.5.19 yesterday, but I haven't actually had a chance to get through and look at it. Let's enable advanced features. And let's see if that makes any changes. Because there's, for instance, I believe, services? What's this? Radius. Okay, so here's the Radius service. We can add a Radius user. Routing and firewall. Supposedly, they have smart queuing in here now as well. Guest control networks. Where would the smart queuing be, I wonder? Yeah, I'm not seeing it off the bat. Like I said, I haven't actually had a chance to dig into 5.5.19 yet. I would think that it would be in routing or firewall. But like, for instance, here's a good example of you know, what they're doing with UniFi. Like, here's the in-out local rules for the WAN, the LAN, and the guests. And that is a very EdgeMax thing, right? The in-out local. That's how they do their firewall rules in Viata. So they're starting to incorporate that into here. Now, this used to say beta. It no longer says beta for these firewall rules. So you can create new rules. Like if you have a VLAN and you want to segment off a VLAN, you can now create the in-out local rules on a per VLAN basis. Groups. No groups have been configured. Groups is also another thing, like port groups. Yeah, address groups and port groups you can now do. Profiles. Radius profiles. Services. Admins. I don't see where we can do smart queuing. Maybe smart queuing is coming, but it's not here yet. Smart are set on the USG setting itself. Oh, all right, hang on. Let's take a look at that. Devices, USG, configuration. Oh, here it is. Yep. Thank you, Jake. Jake wins the prize of the day. Enable smart queues. So here's our smart queues. If you run a speed test, like for instance, I'm at 60 megabit and 6. Like say I did a speed test and I got 60 megabit. I'd want to put 6 uprate, sorry. 6 megabits up, 60 megabits down, and then save those changes. That's basically QoS in the USG now. All right, let's go back a little bit in the chat. Okay, so UBNT always wanted UniFi to be the leader, but the software wasn't there. They use EdgeMax to disrupt pricing in the industry, but I bet UniFi will be the only product in a year or two. I don't know about that. I think that EdgeMax and EdgeOS still has its place. There's a lot of stuff that you can do. And also edge switches. Edge switches are like so advanced compared to what you can do with a UniFi switch. You know, there's if you're doing anything beyond a vanilla installation, UniFi is catching up. It's getting better, but it's not quite there yet. I just want to find a good cable source that the pros use. Well, I use monoprice, and I have not found monoprice cables to be a problem. And they're cheap enough that if they, you know, if anything happens where the little, you know, tip breaks off at the end or anything like that, I just chuck them. I buy them in like bulk. I buy like, you know, 10 of each length at a time, and I do that every you know, month or two. Okay, so Lars says, I know from Cisco that you need the SmartNet nonsense for support, but normally a Cisco WLC with APs is very stable with the correct software. Yeah, and so the point that I was making on, like, if I was doing a large hotel installation is, number one, they have the money to spend on solid, like, bulletproof Wi-Fi. And number two, you know, the support structure for Ubiquiti just isn't there. So you need that support structure for an enterprise client like that. And that's, you know, so for SMB, UniFi and Ubiquiti is great, but for a larger client, you still want to stick with the enterprise level gear. Okay, so yep, another person saying EdgeMax is going to be around for a while. Can the USG be used in transparent mode yet? There were talks on the forum a while ago. I'm not sure what that is. Are you talking about like a bridge mode? I'm not sure what you mean by transparent mode. There you go, Brandon, look at that. Edge router still has its place. Doesn't that disable hardware offload? Will there be a big performance difference? Smart queues. Yes, that's a good question. I don't remember exactly what it enables or disables, but I think you're right in the Edge Max or Edge OS line. I think enabling smart queues disabled hardware offload. I'd have to go back and research that, but I do seem to recall hearing that. So does it do the same thing on here? I don't know. Again, this is the first time that I'm seeing smart queues on USG. I haven't had a chance to play with it yet. Congrats on reaching 30,000 subscribers. Eric, thank you so much. Yeah, I just hit 30,000 subscribers late last week. Absolutely astounding to me. Thank you guys for all being subscribers. I absolutely appreciate it. I've seen a pretty bad performance hit on the USG 3 when using smart queues. That's interesting. Again, I have not tried it. It does disable offload, and yes, it has a large impact. Okay. I put Ubiquiti, UAP, IWS, UniFi, UAP, in-wall wireless access point, 802.11bgn in each room. Yeah, that's one way to do it for sure. That's for a hotel installation. Yeah. Some of the hotels, the problem with some of the hotels is retrofitting them. A lot of hotels, if they don't have Cat 5 in the wall, which, you know, most do these days, but some don't, it's a little difficult to go with the in-wall units, although I do like those in-wall units a lot. Yes, bridge mode / pass-through is something like pfSense in front doing more advanced features. So transparent mode, I don't know. I mean, I guess like you would be utilizing the USG essentially just for like DPI and that sort of stuff. Yeah, like Brandon said, I wouldn't recommend doing that either. I mean, go for one or the other. You know, like I said, if you need more advanced features like what pfSense can provide, if you're looking for intrusion detection or if you're looking for like whole site, you know, spam and virus protection, that sort of stuff, go with a firewall that does that. Don't go with UniFi. I see so many hotels with cable molding all over the place. A lot don't have the infrastructure. Yeah, well, I mean, keep in mind, guys, hotels, unless they're like a super, you know, decent chain, even like the smaller hotels, like a Motel 6, it's just a franchise, and so there's just, you know, regular old people running that motel. You know, it's just people like you and I, and a lot of them don't have an IT background, then they maybe went cheap when they set it up originally. The one thing I will say about hotels, if anyone's doing a hotel installation and you're going to attempt to do it with UniFi, don't use UAPAC lights to save money, because those do not have the throughput and the client connectivity to support the traffic that you're going to get in a hotel environment. You want to use minimally the UAPAC Pros. I'm looking forward to Ubiquiti Network Management System still in beta. Maybe the UniFi controller EdgeMax devices. Yeah, I haven't looked at UNMS at all, so I couldn't tell you anything about it. Thoughts on UniFi Voice versus Sangoma? There's no contest. There's no contest. It's not even close. The UniFi phones, in my opinion, are not great phones. They don't. There's a lot of problems with them. The two biggest problems with the UniFi video devices are that the sound quality is not spectacular, especially for the price that you pay for those phones. And the second thing that I don't like about them is that those phones are a full Android OS running on the screen of the phone, which means that when you are first booting up the phone and getting into the phone, typically you have to put in your Google account credentials. And so now you've got your email and your contacts list and everything is right in that phone, which is nice, except there's no way to lock the screen of the phone. So if you have a bunch of UniFi video phones in a company, everyone's got their Google accounts connected to the phones, you can walk around and get right into people's email. It doesn't make any sense from a security standpoint. So yeah, no, especially when it comes to free PBX, it's not even a close contest. The Sangoma phones are above and beyond any other phone, including Yealink, heads and tails, no contest, period. And that comes from experience. I was just looking at my Sangoma portal today, and just the phone, I have over, I think it's close to 750 Sangoma phones deployed currently that I have personally deployed and managed, and that's not counting other customers that use their own Sangoma portal. They are great phones. Have you heard of issues with burn-in on Yealink displays? I have not heard of that issue. I have not had a problem with that myself. I don't mind Yealink phones. They're like a close second as far as I'm concerned to the Sangomas, but Sangoma's just better, period. I mean, it's hard to put into words like why they're so much better, because the list of features of things you can do with Sangoma, like right in the GUI of FreePBX versus what you would have to go through to do those same things in Yealink is humongous. Okay, guys, well, I've gone for about an hour and 40 minutes. I think I'm going to start wrapping this up. It looks like the questions are winding down. Thank you, everyone, for joining me on the live stream. I absolutely appreciate it every time someone joins. Thank you again, especially to those who gave me a super chat. Very much appreciate it. Gave me a little bonus, a little bit of beer money for the weekend, and excellent. So thank you, guys. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And I look forward to the Crosstalk NVR10 video coming hopefully next week sometime. I'm going to start that video right now after I eat some lunch, and then, yeah, I hope to have it out maybe by Tuesday or Thursday of next week. So thanks, guys, and I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful weekend.